Hello everyone. I asked a question a few days ago on my page, asking if anyone's got any questions, because I get a lot of questions sent to me I get the same questions asked me over and over again about speech and language issues and bilingualism in particular. So I thought it would just be good to do a Facebook Live to tell everyone the answers so everyone can benefit. Those who don't know me, I'm Ronnie, and I have a blog called Multicultural Motherhood. The address is www.multiculturalmotherhood.com, and I am a speech and language therapist specialising in bilingualism. So I write about speech and language issues, bilingualism, and homeschooling. Now, I've had a few questions sent to me. The first one is from Jess. She's got a 2-year-old who speaks English and Mandarin, and she wants to introduce Swahili. So she's asking, how should she introduce Swahili? Should she do the similar topics? Should she teach them similar topics in all the languages, or should she follow the school curriculum? I would say think about how they learnt their first languages. When children learn languages, they learn it naturally just by being in that environment and listening to everyone else, and they just learn it in a very, very natural way. You don't have to sit down with them and teach them from a book. You don't have to follow a curriculum. So I would say following a curriculum is really not necessary, especially at his age. He's very young, only 2 years old. The best thing to do if you want to introduce Swahili, if you are able to speak it fluently yourself, I would say you could just stop speaking the language you're speaking at the moment and just start speaking Swahili to him. That's a really, really good way. He's 2, so he'll pick it up so quickly if you do it that way. If you don't want to do that and you want to introduce it like you would a foreign language, the best way to do this for a young child is to learn through play. So what you can do is whenever you're playing, you can just introduce different topics depending on what you're playing with. For example, if you're playing with blocks, you can be talking about the colours of the blocks. What colour are you putting on top of what colour? Name all the different colours of the blocks. You can learn numbers. How many blocks are you building into a tower? How many blocks are you adding on? How many blocks are you taking away? What kind of things are you building? Are you building a house? Are you building a castle? A garden? Those kind of things. Play-Doh is another really good way to learn languages. I'm going to be writing a blog post about this soon. So you could be making different shapes. You could talk about different colours of Play-Doh again. You can make balls and count them. You can stick things in it. That's another really good way. Just think about what you're doing naturally. If you're going shopping, if you're eating, talk about all the different names of all the foods, what you like, what you don't like. So yeah, really just try and do it as naturally as you can, in a playful way, and it'll be really interesting for them. And a 2-year-old should pick it up really quickly anyway. As far as curriculums go, I'm not really a fan of curriculums. I homeschool my children and we don't really follow curriculums. I believe that children learn best just by living life, and you can turn everything into an educational environment. So just think about what you're doing and try and bring learning experience into your everyday life. You don't need to follow the same topics in each language. I mean, when you become fluent in a language, you don't really want to be translating from one language to another. So you don't really want to be saying, oh, this is green in Mandarin, this is green in Swahili, because that really takes longer for the brain to process. You want to really be just able to say it. So you don't really need to be doing the same topics in each language. Just do them as they naturally occur in your daily life. So I hope that answers your question there. The second question I've got is from Megan, I think it is. She says, should we correct a child's grammatical errors when they are speaking another language. And she's got the example, open the lights instead of, they say open the lights instead of turn on the lights. Now, I think she's talking about her child who talks Turkish and English. So in Turkish, you would say open the lights, but in English, you would say turn on the lights. So this is an example of language transfer. So when people know more than one language, they can often transfer elements from one language to another, and this happens all the time. It happens in adults. I hear them all the time as well doing this kind of thing. And the transfer can be either positive or negative. So positive transfer is when you transfer something that helps you. So it's probably something that is a similarity between the languages. So you know it in one language and you transfer it into the other language and it's correct. An example of negative transfer is like this example here, when the child is saying open the light instead of turn on the light. So obviously that's wrong to say open the light in English. And she's asking, should she correct it? Well, you shouldn't ever say anything negative to children when they're learning a language. And that goes for when they're just learning their first language as well. So when they're learning English, you shouldn't really be saying to them, no, this is wrong, say it this way. What you should be doing is modelling the correct usage. So when your child says, open the light, you can say, yes, let's turn on the light. Emphasise the turn on. Don't say to them, no, you're wrong. It's not open the light, it's turn on the light. Can you say turn on the light? You don't have to even make them repeat it. Just model the correct usage when they say it incorrectly, and over time they will pick up the correct usage. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. Another question that I've been asked quite a lot lately, both online and in my personal life, is a lot of parents worried about speech sound difficulties. So the one that I've heard quite a lot recently is parents worried about their children not being able to produce the word r, the sound r. Now, r is quite a difficult sound, and it's one that children learn last when they're acquiring the language sounds. All sounds are acquired in a specific order. So it will start with sounds like, at the age of about 1, it will start with sounds like m, b, p, and then it will move on to the end to r, and sounds like the th sounds th in thing, the in this. So it is quite a late sound to acquire, and they will probably get this sound about the age of 5. That's when a lot of children start to acquire this sound. But some children can be as late as about 7 acquiring this sound. So if your child is younger than 7, I wouldn't worry about it too much at the moment. They will probably acquire it by that age. If they are still having trouble with it, I would say you can help them by, first of all, getting them to produce the sound on its own. So getting them to produce a r on its own. You can do this by getting them to really slow down the sound and say r. Once they get the sound on its own, you can start to add it into a word. So rabbit. And you can also get them to slow it down at this point and say rabbit. It helps a lot, I found, to get the children to say that before the r sound. It really helps them get into that sound. Once they can say it as a single word, you can start to put it into a sentence. So, for example, along came a rabbit. The rabbit hopped away. Again, get them to say the sound quite slowly at first and then speed it up. So, just to go over that again, get them to say the sound on its own, the single sound. Then get them to say it as a word, and then get to say it in a sentence. So I hope that helps you with that. If you have any more questions about speech language, bilingualism, or homeschooling, then you can just comment below, because I'm planning to do a Facebook Live once a week answering some of your questions. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and if you want any tips or anything about bilingualism, speech and language, or homeschooling, have a look at my blog, because I've got quite a lot of language activities and articles on there about that. So that's www.myblog.com. multiculturalmotherhood.com. If you go over there, you'll find a lot of information on there. And also you can check out my Instagram, which is at multiculturalmotherhood. You can check that out as well because I post daily on there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, give me a like and I'll see you next week.